Well, hello, Viva Albertos. This is almost the entire Viva Albertos writing team here with you today for the VEU podcast. I'm your host today, JP Hill or Jason Hill. And we've got, 5 other writers with us. We'll start up there in my left-hand corner. Gabe, how's it going, Gabe?
It's going good. STL Cards Fan 4, if you guys haven't seen that lately, but Gabe, next up.
And then below him on my screen is Skyrick Mike Jones. Hey, Skyrick.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Yep.
Yes, Mike Jones, Skyrick ESQ.
And then next to him, Blake.
Yeah, hey, how's it going, guys? Lot to talk about today, so it should be fun.
Yeah. We'll just scoot right on over to Scooter. Heather, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing good.
Nice to see everybody again.
Oh, and the cat. That's our first cat appearance. And we know the dog is there too because we got a good shot of the dog a minute ago. So all right. And then last but not least, one of our newest Birdo writers is Connor Lemons. Hey, Connor.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for letting me crash your party this season.
Yeah. Now, Connor, you're kind of new here. We thought we might give you a chance to introduce yourself a little bit. And you've been writing for the site for a while, doing recaps and some articles. And you also write about Ohio State stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I've pretty much exclusively been doing recaps, which hopefully the people appreciate because I haven't put a whole lot of recaps out, but I've been doing a few per week. And then, I also cover Ohio State men's basketball for Land Grant Holy Land, which is OSU's SB Nation site. So hoops is pretty slow right now. So mostly been focusing on baseball, but once we get to September, they'll overlap and then I'll be busy.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's great to have you and great to have you on the podcast. And it was, I'll tell you what, it was a great weekend of baseball. Brewers were in town, and I don't know, I said this on Twitter, but I think that was the best series of the year so far. And definitely the funnest baseball that we've gotten to watch. What did you guys think about this past weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. The Cardinals came in with the series lead and then were like one run and an extra inning game away from a sweep of the second place team. So it's hard. And then Albert Pujols with 2 home runs in the last game. What's not to love? That was a great weekend.
Yeah.
I watched absolutely 0% of it. So maybe that's a sign. I shouldn't be watching any of the games. I went back and watched some of the highlights, especially the Pujols homers, because I saw a clip or something where it said Pujols. The headline was like, Pujols is the grandpa of the clubhouse. And I'm like, okay, I got to get context for this. What are they talking about? And so I knew they won, but I didn't get to watch any of it. I missed out on all the fun. I'm really bummed out.
Yeah. Well, that happens.
One of the most entertaining parts of the weekend was, or of that series, was arguing with like a brand new poster on the site who suggested that the reason we didn't sweep the series was because we had used Helsley for 2 innings the night before, and you can't use your closer for 2 innings because he may not be available the next day, and it's just I think that series for me more than anything else just highlighted. I mean, it could have gone our way, but they need to ditch the man on second base rule.
Yeah,
it's just too arbitrary. I get what they're trying to do, but I just think that's a solution in search of a non-problem.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like, and I could be wrong about this, but it seems like one of the things that's motivating that particular rule is that with the shortened spring trainings, they're trying to limit exposure for some of these players. And somehow they feel like, that extra inning games that end faster would cut down on injuries or something. I don't know. It just seems like a terrible reason to change the whole fabric of a baseball game there at the most critical moment. But that's just my opinion. What do I know?
I agree.
Yeah.
At least with the man on second after the 10th inning, maybe like you should have a couple extra innings where it's normal rules. And then once you get to like 12th, 13th, it's like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
You want to end the game sooner rather than later. I get
some
it.
sort of like predetermined bedtime, whatever that happens to be for MLB. Like there's certain times, like I'll watch till midnight or whatever, and then let's just get this game over with. I don't care if they start with 3 runners on and no one out. I just want to go to sleep. Oh, so Pujols went deep in that last game twice, but then Carlson and O'Neill also came up with big homers at that moment, and I don't know. It seems like getting those two going might be one of the keys to this final run here at the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, trading Harrison Bader, like he obviously wasn't going to play, but you come playoff time, you're going to need O'Neill and Carlson. That feels like those are the two guys who the outfield is kind of dependent on. So, I mean, that's going to play a huge role in the second half of the season, is those two getting hot and staying hot, or even Tyler O'Neill hitting better than Corey Dickerson, which hasn't even been a given this year. So, yeah,
right. I think we'll circle back around to that because I know, Blake, you wrote about that a little bit, Gorman and O'Neill this week. And I've got some questions for you about O'Neill, because with you writing about it, and it seems like if I'm not covering a topic, I'm not really doing the research on it. So I've got questions about what's going on with him, but and then Carlson, I've looked more into his stuff, and it seems like his average exit velocity has been ticking up a little bit, probably because he just hit a home run. So there's that. And then today in the first inning, I've got the Rockies game on here in front of me, and had a pretty hard hit single. It's just nice to see some more hard hit stuff from him, because it just hadn't been there all year.
And especially after them not dealing him, I know a lot of people, he's going to get some undeserving trash probably thrown his way by fans a little bit, because they didn't deal him for Soto. And, if he goes 0 for 4 a few games in a row, people are going to be chirping, oh, this is the guy you wanted to keep for Soto. But I think this is just his second full season in the league, right? Like, people, it feels like he's been with the Cardinals for 4 or 5 years, I feel like, but he's literally like 23. Yeah. So he's going to come around, but I think he probably is getting a little added pressure as well from the outside, just because of what was rumored to potentially be coming back for Carlson, and they didn't want to send him. They weren't willing to send him out.
Yeah,
and that's the stupid thing, is that we don't actually know. Like they say Carlson, they told Carlson he wasn't getting traded, but we don't know if
that was the deal breaker.
It wasn't Carlson for Soto.
No, it wasn't straight up. They would have made that in a heartbeat. I mean, without a question.
People are, I don't know. I feel people think that is close to what was the deal, and it just annoys me because the Cardinals don't leak anything. We have no idea what they were willing to give up.
No,
they really don't. We find out about things from other reporters who aren't even affiliated with Cardinals, because they just don't leak anything. It's kind of impressive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, if going back there, I mean, there was really very little information that I saw about interest in Quintana, and nothing about Jordan Montgomery. I mean, that was the most silent, major trade that I think we've ever seen at the trade deadline. It's like who, what? Everyone's just like, what in the world, who? And but yeah, I mean, that's the way they operate. They are a closed ship, and no information leaks out of there, which always makes you think, if you start seeing stuff out there about the Cardinals, it's not coming from Mo, and it's probably coming from an agent or someone that benefits from the information. So you can pretty much take it with a grain of salt that it's not representing what the Cardinals are actually doing.
I've been known a time or two to put articles out there trying to manifest something. Like, there's no rumors, and I'm like, let's start a rumor. But it worked. I did it for Goldschmidt and Arenado, and then they both got, I feel a little bit responsible for that. So you're welcome, everyone.
Yeah, everyone. Let's say a collective thank you to Scooter Simon for bringing us both those players.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So it's just mid-August here, but 4 games or against the Brewers, and 4 games remaining against the Brewers, 2 at home, 2 on the road. Was this past weekend, was it the most important series that we're going to have all year until some sort of clinching series?
I was going to say I have an answer, but I think no.
Yeah.
The only reason why is because if we would have lost the series, we'd still be in first right now, because they just lost to the Dodgers, wouldn't we? Or it'd be
tied.
Well, if we got swept, it might have been a little different, but
it would have been half a game up.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I just feel like with the Brewers facing the Dodgers 7 times, the importance of us winning that series was not quite critical. So it was just a beneficial thing that we could get a nice leg up, and then hopefully they'll start getting crushed by the Dodgers. We could take a really big lead.
I do think, like, mentally, it was very deflating if you were a fan of the Brewers, because they had a very interesting trade deadline where they traded away one of their, I guess he hadn't really been pitching that well this year, but one of their known to be better pitchers. And then I think that came into play in the series against the Cardinals. I've tried to look. I'm sorry. As I said, I didn't get to watch any of the series. I tried. I was at a bachelorette party weekend thing. I missed all of it. And anyway,
much more important.
We might need highlights of that.
Yeah, that Lake of the Ozarks. It was a mess.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it was briefly flashing in the corner of like one of the bars, and I was like, and then, like trying to watch out of the corner of my eye. But I think it came into play that they did not have Josh Hader. And so I think if the Cardinals would have lost, it wouldn't have felt so disheartening. But I think for the Brewers, it was a kind of a big bummer. And so for that, not that there's necessarily a lot of momentum that takes place in baseball. It's kind of your next start sort of thing. But man, if I wouldn't be feeling really great if I was with the Brewers
so the Brewers, since they made that Josh Hader trade, the Brewers are 4-8.
Yeah.
And they've lost, like, right after that trade, they lost they got swept by the Pirates during that. So the trade deadline was August 2nd. They made the trade and they got swept that series. They lost 2 or 3 to the Reds. They took 2 from Tampa Bay, but then they lost 2 of 3 to us. And then last night they got shut out by the Dodgers, and they've had, especially right after that trade, they had issues in the late innings. That, to me, that's one of the most fascinating trades that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
I haven't memorized every trade that's ever been made, but it stands out.
Are you sure?
It stands
Some would
out
argue otherwise.
It stands out to me as one that was just like, I commented on it briefly last time when we were together. So imagine like the Cardinals in the pennant race being in first and then trading Bruce Sutter.
Yeah.
Right. People would, even if you could now, I mean, I can understand there are some fans that are, you get on Brew Crew Ball, and there's some fans that they get it. They understand the argument for it, but I mean, it's just, you have to wonder, like, the people on the other members of that club, they're like, we're in first place and you want to take a huge part of their bullpen. I realize, they got Matt Bush, they got Taylor Rogers. They're somehow gambling that Rosenthal is going to be healthy again. He just got sent on a rehab assignment now and is still not available because he was on the Giants injured list with a hamstring problem when they traded for him. And so he got immediately transferred to the Brewers injured list. But I don't know. I mean, it was more of a forward thinking trade where they were almost gambling that it was going to be better for the future, and it really wasn't going to make that much difference now.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that may come back to hurt them this season.
It's a good idea until it isn't, if that makes sense. Like,
right.
Like, I think we like to think of, and I especially, I'll admit this, I like to think of bullpen pieces as interchangeable, and you really have no idea. I mean, Hennessy Cabrera is a good example. Last year, and year before that, really pretty dominant. You look inside of his stats this year, though, man, pretty shaky, and starting to show up some in the performance on the field. So much volatility in relievers, you can't rely on them one year from another. Although a guy like Josh Hader, I mean, I don't know how anyone could be more reliable than him. But so, yeah, it's a good idea until it doesn't, until the guy you think that can replace him can't and starts blowing games. And then you got a problem, because when relievers do poorly and are volatile, wins and losses happen.
I'm a little surprised that they've been using, it looks like they've been using Rogers more in the ninth inning role than Devin Williams, which when I saw that trade, I just assumed their thought process was we downgrade a little bit from Hader to Devin Williams, who's still like big nasty.
Really good.
He's very good. And then you throw in Taylor Rogers in like a 7th or 8th inning role. And then I believe that prospect Ruiz they got, like Esteri Ruiz, Blake might know him a little bit better. Apparently he's going to be a difference maker down the road too. So it just seemed like they were trying to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is you just lost the most dominant relief pitcher of the past probably 5 years. And what does that do to a clubhouse? They're just trying to overthink it.
There's
Right.
like a psychological aspect, which we like to look at numbers and think about it that. But I do think there's a chemistry sort of psychological thing when a player gets traded away that they're used to being around. It's a little bit deflating. It can backfire, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
especially when you don't improve the team. Like
Yeah.
at best, they remain neutral and they
Mhm.
needed offense specifically. But the thing about Rodgers, I saw this on Brew Crew Ball comment. It's not specific. He's allowed like something like 24 runs in his last 24 innings or something like that. Like
Doesn't sound
he has a
good.
5 ERA for a reason. He doesn't replace Josh Hader. He just
Yeah.
doesn't.
I mean, we saw how Devin Williams was upset after that trade. And I mean, even like they got Dinelson Lamet in that trade. And I know he was hurt for a while and he hasn't been super effective, but it wasn't that long ago that he had one of the nastier sliders in baseball. And I kind of felt the Brewers might try to just bring that back in like a 6th or 7th inning role, but then they literally just DFA them without even giving.
So that was bizarre. So they figured out, and you have to at least hope that somebody knew that like the week before the trade, he hit 5 years of major league service, which means that he could not be optioned anymore.
Yeah.
Without his permission.
Yeah.
And then it turned out, oops, well, we got Rosenthal now. We don't really think he's in our plan. So we're just going to have to put him on outright assignment waivers and hope somebody takes his contract, which the Rockies did. But that, you know, so they took him. The stated reason for them taking him was the Padres insisted on it because that would have put them just barely under the competitive balance tax. But, you know, I don't know. I just thought the whole thing was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird trade.
Yeah.
And LeMay has 5 scoreless innings for the Rockies so far, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, so okay. So it seemed like you guys were sort of in agreement that this might not have been the most important series of the season. Hard to say it would be in mid-August, but it kind of feels like this stretch right now is almost as important as playing the Brewers head-to-head, since we're only got 4 more games against the Brewers. Them playing LA, they've got 7 games in their next couple weeks against LA. And it seems like there was another team in there that was pretty good, but I know later on they've got to play the 2 East powerhouses. They've got the Mets and the Yankees. Now they get them at home. The hardest part of our schedule, we've got the Braves in August, and then we have to go to LA and San Diego. And for
West Coast
us,
swing is going to be that West Coast. To me, that's
the key, and then right through there. Yeah.
I think that's where the season's going to get decided.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like, and I kind of got into this on my article on Saturday a little bit, but it's like right now, this is why I was saying that it might be pretty important that series against the Brewers, at least get 2 or 3, because right now with them playing the Dodgers and us playing the Rockies and the Diamondbacks,
They need to build
it's a chance
that
for us
cushion.
to build some games, you know, and build a little bit of cushion so that whenever we have to go to LA and go to San Diego and then a 2-game trip to Milwaukee, either I can't remember if it's on the front end or the tail end. I think it's on the tail end that we go to Milwaukee again. That's like, you know, 8 games, maybe 9. That, I mean, you could swing the standings quite a bit. Now, again, they've got to play the tough AL and NL East teams, but you know, got to have a cushion before we go out there. But the rest of the schedules for both teams, honestly, are pretty much pretty easy. But we've got to take care of business against teams like the Rockies.
By the way, when I said I think the most important series was the Yankees series, actually.
Yeah,
Because so unexpected. And at the same time, they lost 2 of 3 to the Reds after getting swept by the Pirates. And that combination, when we came to the Brewers series, we should have been fighting and trying to leapfrog them into first place. Instead, we were just adding to our lead.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's why I think that was slightly more important than the Brewers series. But the Brewers series was obviously very important too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for momentum, the Yankee series was massive. I mean, they beat them at small ball. They outslugged them. And now they kind of put the Yankees into a tailspin. That was a series where I was like, okay, especially with Hudson pitching game 1, I was like, if they take 1 out of 3 against the Yankees, that's not a disaster. And they beat them. Like I said, small ball. They outslugged them in game 3. I was very impressed.
Yeah.
Did you guys see last night's highlight where Rizzo got called for leading into that pitch?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Vindication. Finally.
You almost never see that, like, ever. Even if you do see it, it's like it'll usually be like on a pitch that's in the strike zone.
Yeah.
But then they pan to him going into the dugout and just slamming everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
I thought
what-
that one, it was the right call based on the way that Rizzo moved, but it was the wrong pitch to call it on, if that makes sense. Like the pitch was way inside. So he moved
Right.
in towards the plate to kind of try to get away from it. But yeah, it always annoyed me. I think it was Barry Bonds and I think Craig Biggio used to just sort of sit out there with their arm guard hanging over center field or over the plate and just tap it down a little bit, take that hit. Oh, it drove me crazy. It'd be a strike right down the middle and you'd get first base. I think it was
He
Biggio.
stands on the plate. He's so close to the plate, which I get why he's trying to take away the inside, but it drives me nuts because then he'll get hit by a pitch, and then like the Cubs talk about how they get hit by so many pitches back when he was on the Cubs.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, because a lot of your players crowd the plate. That's a big part of their game at the plate. So you can't really complain about it when they're doing it on purpose, you know. And then like if a Cardinals player gets hit out of retaliation because their player got hit because they were crowding the plate, I'm like, they did it on purpose. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that drove
Well,
me.
hey, let's do a little inventory here. Let's take a look at what the Cardinals have. I mean, they pretty much are done. Like, there's no way from externally to add to their roster for the postseason at this point. Trade deadline's passed. They've got some internal options they could look at. You know, Yepez is still down, and I think more and more people calling for Burleson to come up, although there has to be a spot for him to play. DeYoung's back up, let's just go piece by piece, starting with the offense. Is like the lineup we're seeing, although it's a lefty tonight, but the lineup we've been seeing lately with Newbar playing right field, Carlson in center, O'Neill, Gorman, kind of in there, DH, second base occasionally, DeYoung playing short. Is this what we're going to see for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels that way. I think, if DeYoung starts struggling a little bit, his leash is going to be a lot shorter than it has been in the past, and I think that's going to lead to a lot more Gorman or Donovan too. But I think, like, at least for the next week, or as long as DeYoung keeps hitting the ball well, I think this is kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
You guys okay with Donovan and Gorman being at this point basically semi-regular? I mean, I don't really have a problem with Gorman sitting against lefties, but Donovan in particular struggling to get on the field, and he probably still has the highest WRC plus among that rookie group, even higher than Gorman. So it seems a little odd that he went from a must start anywhere on the field to can't see the field almost at any time.
I think you're going to find that Donovan's going to get optioned when they bring Yepez back here.
You think so?
Unless they decide to DFA Dickerson, or if Dickerson's calf problem, depends on when it happens.
Yeah.
Well, they might just like send him down for like a week or two and then call him back up when September rolls around. So they can.
Yeah, that's kind of what, because he hasn't played the last couple. I don't know if he's playing. I don't know if anyone saw if Yepez is playing tonight, but he played once or twice and then didn't. He played the outfield and left sometime in the middle of the game, not with an injury that I heard, just left and hasn't played, again.
I think it was
doesn't mean a whole lot, but
Yeah, I think he got sick.
he was sick.
oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think
he's not playing today.
I think Ollie said that he wants him to get at least one 9-inning game in the outfield before they bring him back up.
Yeah. And it does sounds like they plan to bring him back, because I wondered if they would just leave him down there with Pujols doing what he's doing and Dickerson kind of back in favor at the moment. Where does Yepez really fit right now on the team?
What they were talking about doing was making him the platoon right fielder. I think that's a mistake. I would not put him in right ever.
Yeah.
But and really anywhere in the field unless I had to. I would leave him down and just let him hit for the next couple of weeks and then bring him up when rosters expand. But they seem to really want to make him an outfielder.
Yeah. Gabe, I saw you shaking your head, man. What do you think about that idea?
Oh, I was laughing at the dog, but
okay.
I tried to mute it. Sorry.
No, I agree. I think I was a little surprised that they're not that they're like making it seem like Yepes is definitely going to come up just because he kind of makes the most sense to keep down because he's not hit as well as Donovan. He hasn't hit as well as Foreman. Plus, Newbar seems to be the regular starting right fielder right now, and they don't seem to be interested in DFA and Dickerson. Otherwise, they probably would have done it by now. And is there anybody left to send down at that point?
I haven't counted, but I guess you could send a pitcher down. Is Woodford still up? I think he is, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still up.
Yeah, I mean, you could send a pitcher down, but they're not going to send a pitcher down.
I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah.
So he kind of makes the most sense of all the offensive options currently because he also is not a good fielder. And his bat hasn't been that above average this year.
Yeah.
So, and it's 2 weeks, September call-ups. So you might as well wait.
Yeah. Thing about Yepes, and I agree with everything you just said, but I will say this about Yepes as opposed to Donovan. If Yepes gets hot, that can change the whole face of the team. Donovan gets hot, a couple extra base hits, he walks all the time anyway. It doesn't matter if he's making contact or not, he still gets his walks in. But Yepes is legitimately a difference maker on offense. But I'm kind of like you guys. I don't really feel the need to ever see Yepes in the outfield. I just really don't. I think that he's pretty thoroughly demonstrated that that's not what he should be doing. And especially with other guys that can't play the outfield, I don't know why Yepes would need to be out there at all.
It's just difficult because whose at bats do you take away to give Yepes an opportunity to get hot? I mean, they're not going to. We know if Albert had an OPS of 400, he would still be getting at bats against lefties right now. They're not going to not play Albert down the stretch in his last season. But like, whose at bats do you take away to let Juan Yepes play?
Right.
I don't know if there's anybody.
Yeah, and for now, let me clarify this. For now, because this will change, Yepes has reverse splits, and so he hasn't been very good against lefties, but he has been good against righties. So it's just an odd situation. I don't know, what you would really, what they think they're going to do with him besides, having a third or fourth DH option.
Yeah, I mean, if you want him to get hot, like he's not going to get a ton of playing time at the major league level. Like you might as well just let him swing away for 2 weeks in AAA. I'd rather have Donovan play anywhere in the field over Yepes. So he just provides so much more versatility.
Yeah. So it sounds like then we're pretty happy with the way the offense is going in the sense that we are, not sure that we're able to make space for a plus hitter in Juan Yepes. So pretty happy with that. Let's talk rotation. For now, Hudson's still in the rotation, but they're delaying his next start. And with some of the off days, they're able to do that. I don't think he starts again until he's in Arizona. It seems like not such a great place to put, Hudson back into the rotation. But the 4 and then Hudson, are you guys satisfied with that arrangement for now? Or do you think Hudson's got the shortest leash of any golden retriever ever?
Depends on Flaherty. I don't know if they actually expect him to come back because they're probably like, well, Flaherty's coming back, I don't know, in 2 or 3 weeks. And we might as well just keep giving the job to Hudson until then, almost no matter what the outcome is, which I kind of feel like is the plan. But I would prefer Hudson not be in the rotation personally.
Yeah.
I want to keep giving Palante shots. I want to see what he.
I agree with you. I mean, I think we saw in the last start, it was Hudson for 4 innings and Palante for 4 innings. I like that arrangement. Now, I don't know if that was planned or if that was just because Hudson had thrown like 75, 80 pitches or something through 4 innings or not. But I would be fine with keeping Hudson's leash really short and letting Palante go for a while after that, as opposed to just having Hudson try to shoulder 6 innings because that's just not going to go well.
What I might do is really if they're gonna skip him, why not? I mean, he has minor league options left, and it's only a 2-week job. Why not just option him to AAA, let him get some pitching in down there, bring up Zach Thompson, let him, eat some innings in middle relief, or they sort of tried to make him a high leverage reliever down there. And I don't know if it's really worked that well. I'm sort of confused about their whole plan with Zach Thompson this year.
Yeah.
He was in the rotation, and then he was, in many respects, he was looking like he was better than Liberator. And then they didn't want to use him there. And then they sent him back down. And then they've tried to basically make everybody a 1-inning reliever, I feel like. So I don't know. I mean, I realize that, that's how a lot of our good starting pitchers have gotten started, but I don't know I've never seen anybody like yanked back and forth the way they've done with people this year.
For what it's worth, Thompson has not been good since getting sent down. I
Yeah.
gotta look at his stats, but he's pitched 2 innings. Well, no, maybe it's a little more than that. Yeah, 2 innings, and allowed 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 2 Ks. So I don't expect to see him in the majors anytime soon for a little bit.
Or maybe Fernandez or one of those other, like he was not doing that bad before we sent him down. If they're just, I guess what I'm getting at is if they're just not going to use Thompson for a start, if they're going to skip him, then, why not send him down there to start and we can get another reliever.
Yeah. I'm still not completely sold on Thompson as a starter, which is why I like the idea of leaving him in the bullpen and just letting him, hang out there and decide what you're going to do with him next year. He does, I guess, have 3 pitches, but the third one is a changeup. And someone correct me at this if I'm wrong. And which I think he just doesn't throw very much at all. He's basically just a fastball curveball pitcher. And I'm curious to see how well a 2-pitch pitcher can survive in a major league rotation. We know how well someone like that can do in the bullpen. We see it all the time. But in the rotation, it's a little different animal. You got to have ways to get right-handers and left-handers out. And just not sure that Thompson, can do that over 5 or 6, 7 innings. But
he didn't have a slider.
I don't know that he does have a slider. Let me just pull up baseball.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. He throws it's fastball, curveball, changeup 10% of the time, and he's throwing 8 cutters this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, not really.
So I mean, that changeup percentage is actually a little higher than I thought, but you're still talking 53% 4-seam, 34% curve. That's 87% of your pitches are 2 pitches. But I don't know. It's not that those have to be 2 really good pitches to survive in the major league rotation with that kind of alignment. And I'm not sure that his fastball is that good, to be honest. His curveball is, in my opinion, but we'll see. It's too early to know. Too early to know. As far as Payante, or is it? How do you actually say it? I've heard Palante, Payante. I've heard other things that probably are incorrect. Does anyone know the actual official pronunciation of his name?
I'm pretty sure it's Palante.
Palante, not Payante.
Yeah, okay. I'm like 80% sure.
Then I'm going to go with what you say, Blake, and it'll be your fault if.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that.
I don't think it would be Payante. It would be like Payante if it was something like that. But I haven't actually heard it out loud besides when we've talked about it. So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I like Palante. It sounds like him.
I thought also like I can't remember who it was that said this, that you thought they were going to piggyback him kind of with Hudson. And that's, I was really excited about that at the beginning. And then I kind of started thinking about it. I'm like, well, yeah, but then you're only using a long reliever every 5 days. And that's kind of a waste. It's almost like you need 2 different arms that you could throw out there. And I thought that might kind of be what they were doing. I think it was in which series was it that I must have been the Milwaukee series where they pitched him on Saturday and then Hudson started on Sunday. Is that right? And so they kind of broke from that a little bit. I might have my series wrong, but Palante, pitched the day before Hudson, and then kind of brought into question who they would back up with Hudson. But it's almost like they need a guy like Thompson to fill a second role as a long relief swing man, piggyback man for him. I guess Woodford kind of fills that role right now.
Hypothetically, it's Woodford, but I don't know what the hell they're doing with Woodford.
Yeah,
like
the whole thing with Woodford's been bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, Thompson, in my eyes, when he was up, he was their most effective left-handed reliever they've had on the roster at any point this year. He's been better than Genesis Cabrera. Obviously, he's been better than TJ McFarland. Rest in peace. But I mean, Thompson, he took his fastball up. He was touching 98 to 100 on his fastball right before he got sent down. And I feel like the way he's been jerked up and down was pretty much a direct response to whatever was going on with TJ McFarland. Yeah. And it kind of felt like TJ McFarland was only there because he was getting paid and they didn't want to cut rope with him. I don't know. I feel like he should be up with the club until the results turn sour.
Yeah, well, they're really, hesitant to cut bait with someone they're paying, for a lot of different reasons, but it's certainly the truth. So are we satisfied with that? I think the four other rotation, stalwarts are exactly what we've been looking for all year, and finally have it here in August.
Yeah. Very happy with the rotation aside from Dakota Hudson, but
Yeah.
I mean, back on the offense real quick, I just think it's really surprising where the Cardinals rank
Yeah.
in the major leagues. Because if you look at, Baseball Prospectus has this stat they call DRC plus, which I think most people, at least here, are familiar with. It deals with a few more inputs like quality of competition and other things like that. But it's just hard to believe that they have us ranked fourth in the majors. And it just, and really, like, the people that are above, there's only like 6 people that we have that are average or above.
Yeah.
2 of them are Goldschmidt and Arenado, and the other ones are people that are like part-time players that don't play. Like Yepez, Donovan, Pujols, and Bader was another one before he got traded. So it's just, I really think, I mean, it looks, if you take a look at that and you say, okay, well, you're fourth in the majors in offense. I hope down the stretch they find a way. You just wonder how long they can walk that tightrope, how much, Goldie and Arenado can really carry the team offensively. And you got to hope that they find somebody to get on base in front of those guys here in the next 30 days.
Yeah. I just checked that against Fangraphs. WRC plus is sort of Fangraphs' similar version to that stat, also weighted stat. And the Cardinals are 6th in baseball with a 111 WRC plus. And they're pretty, and I checked, WOBA does not have the same sort of like weighting to it, but they're 5th in that. So, I mean, it's real production from somewhere, because you're right. They've got a lot of mediocrity in their lineup besides the 2, stars at the top, but those guys are so good that it also lifts everyone up. But, I'd also say too, especially with regards to WRC plus, and I don't have a, subscription to Prospectus, so I can't confirm it there, but there's a lot of guys that are above average, at average or above, that you wouldn't expect. Like, by almost all accounts, Dylan Carlson's having a down season, but yet he's at or above league average. Lars Nootbaar's at or above league average. Even DeYoung is creeping up towards league average because the offensive stats are down so much league wide this year. And so, I don't know if our sort of stats are need to be recalibrated, or if the Cardinals really are just a good offense.
I think you've kind of hit on it there, is that offense is down league wide for one, but also there's some value in having just a lot of average players. I think this has kind of been the Cardinals' sort of strategy, I think, over the past few years. Some teams have the stars and scrubs sort of setup, but the Cardinals have just had, a lot of like average, and then there's Arenado and Goldschmidt who have played extremely well. And when you put all that together, when you don't have someone bringing down the offense that's like a black hole, you have a pretty good offense.
Yeah.
except the catcher, but yeah.
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 Right.
But even a catcher, that's such a premium defensive position. It doesn't actually, I mean, I know this is just offense, but it doesn't actually pull that much. Like, you can afford to have someone like that when everyone else is just sort of like, two win players, 2, 3, 4 win players.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. I read something too. There was some stuff floating around on Twitter about how the best performing offenses, like by stats, are also some of the most inconsistent offenses. So they have a tendency to spurt runs. And so you would expect someone like a team like the Cardinals that are sort of like consistently above average almost everywhere on the field except catcher. And then also, Tommy Edman, but we won't go into that. But you would expect that team to be pretty consistent, 4 runs, 3 runs, 6 runs, 7 runs, 5 runs, right in there. But the stats kind of show it's the other way. It's 10, 11 runs and then 2, 2, 2, 2, 10, you know, kind of goes like that a little bit more inconsistent than you expect. And that plays a factor in the way that we feel about offenses too, because a good offense that's inconsistent is still a good offense, even though it's inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all remember that stretch where the Cardinals couldn't score for like a week and a half.
Yeah.
But, you know, having Goldschmidt and Arenado hitting the way they are right now, you're right, it does just kind of fluctuate a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just wonder what happens if they go into a stretch where they don't hit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like they've got to have a stretch where they do really hit if they want to put this away. Because if they have another stretch where Arenado and Goldschmidt kind of get cold a little bit, but O'Neill and Carlson and Gorman or Yepez or whoever it is that they decide for the rest of those spots, if they don't step up during that time, they could lose a lot of games in a hurry, despite having a more consistent, you know, pitching staff.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's where Carlson and O'Neill come in too, because they're expecting
vital
top guys. If they're struggling, then that's a lot of production that they're missing.
Yeah,
I do like Ollie sliding O'Neill up to the 2 spot. I know a lot of people might not, but I mean, if you look at like his Baseball Savant page, you look at like O'Neill's been hitting the ball hard pretty much all year. He's gotten a little unlucky, and he's swinging and missing, I think, a little bit more than he did last year. But he's gotten kind of unlucky, and he's hitting the ball hard. And when you put him in front of Goldie and Arenado, he's going to get pitches to hit. They're not going to they're not going to want to beat around the bush with him. He's going to get pitches to hit. And I think he could be the biggest difference maker in the last month and a half, because all of a sudden you have last year's O'Neill in front of Goldie and in front of Arenado. There's not many like 3-packs that I would take over that. That's a pretty good stack right there.
and I think Carlson's sort of similar in the sense that like he should be drawing walks. He should be able to get on base more than he is. He's just had a weird season. I've got an article I keep wanting to write, for this, but I'm probably going to wait till the off season to kind of let everything sort of settle in. But it's almost like Ollie's sitting there saying, you know what, Carlson, you should walk and you're going to, and you're going to start now. And O'Neill, you should be hitting for power and you're going to, and you're going to start now. So I'm throwing you at the top of the lineup, and this is the way we're going to do it. And I have no idea if he's thinking that or not, or if he just doesn't have any better options. But, I don't really have a problem with that. Those guys should be that. They can be that. They have the skills to do it. They're the right guys for it when they're on. So get them on.
I think O'Neill has 2 hits tonight too, by the way.
I think so too.
I've been only, looking up here and then, but
that's and his first hit was like a fly out to the warning track too. So, or his first batted ball of the day. So that's a pretty solid day for him.
Yeah. All right, one more part of this team that we need to look at, and that's the bullpen. And this is timely because right now Jordan Hicks has just come in for Quintana with the bases loaded, no out. So they're looking for the strikeout and then a double play, which is well within Hicks's range, but he also could walk in 3 runs. So how are we feeling about the bullpen right now? We're feeling good, feeling nervous. Are we always nervous about the bullpen? I think we are.
I mean, I want to feel good about it, but also like Hicks hasn't been great. Genesis Cabrera just has really kind of fallen off. I mean, the Cardinals bullpen has a 5.40 ERA in the second half, which it feels like they're way better than that, but that does also make me really nervous. So I think it'll rebound. I don't think it's going to be that bad the rest of the season, but it's definitely not as good as I was expecting it to be.
Yeah. One of you guys that has some time needs to write, or girls too, Heather, sorry. One of you needs to write about what in the world happened to Genesis Cabrera's K rate. Because I was writing about that a couple of years ago. He had one of the highest K rates, I think it was probably 2020, one of the highest K rates we've seen in a long time. I think Ponce de Leon that year too had a really high one. And now it's like, it just completely fell off the map. And I can't figure out what's going on with him at all. But his ERA was still pretty good. But man, the underlying peripherals were not positive on him.
I think part of it is that he made a conscious effort to not walk batters.
Yeah.
So if you look at his last 3 years, his walk rate has kept going down. It's 10% now. And I think ground, I don't know what he was swinging at, but
he got it.
and ground ball percentage and strikeout percentage can be kind of correlated because his ball percentage is also going up. So he's getting more balls on the ground at the expense of strikeouts. Because if you look at his xFIP, I believe it's pretty much the same as last year.
Yeah.
But obviously more balls are leaving the park because he's probably just trying not to walk people. So he kind of gives them meatballs. I don't know. I don't know what the better approach is. If you want a guy who's like Hicks, you might get some strikeouts, but you'll get a lot of walks. Or if you'd rather he gets more ground balls and maybe doesn't. He's still walking a lot of people though. 10% is high.
Yeah.
Right. That's the problem is if he's walking no one, but he's still walking a lot of people. So I can't stand watching walks. I guess, I don't know. I guess you don't want to watch a bunch of hits back to back to back to back also, but I cannot take watching walks. It's one of the worst. It's just not fun to watch in any way. So
I completely agree. Last year was torture with that regard. There's your double play right there. Hicks does his job. Oh no, too fast.
Yeah.
Cabrera's home run to fly ball rate is like a preposterous 20.5%. That's a lot of it. I mean, it was like right around 17 in 2020 in the shortened season. But if you look at last year, maybe it was a little low at 4.5, and it's probably something more representative would be somewhere in the middle. So, you hate to chalk everything up to, bad luck, but that's part of it.
Is this Cabrera or Hicks, you said?
Cabrera,
okay.
Well, yeah, and the interesting thing about that too is he's top 10% of the league in exit velocity. Like he's actually, and I think in hard hit rate too. So he's really like not consistently giving up hard hit contact. It's just I think when it gets hit hard, it kind of goes.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird.
And Bush is playing differently. I don't know if you guys have looked at the park factors, and I haven't written about it yet, although I plan to. Bush is playing as a hitter's park this year, which is odd, very weird. And I don't put a whole lot of stock into it because it's so different from the previous 3 or 4 years, but it's, at least top 10 in the league in home run rate, which
I know that those stats are not supposed to be too influenced, but I wonder if Arenado and Goldschmidt's season is somehow affecting those stats a little bit.
I agree. I've wondered the same thing. They're too different for it not to be a coincidence with the fact that those two are having two MVP seasons.
Yeah.
Have they added anything with Ballpark Village that could be changing how it plays?
They still don't know how the humidor is really going to affect it, but they had the humidor last year, so that should have kind of given them a pretty good sample size to begin with. I really nothing else as far as like no new buildings, no new wind, anything. It's just
it's been hotter.
Oddity. Yeah, it was a hotter spring. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point actually.
At least it feels hotter in St. Louis.
Yeah. But Helsley, I'm sure you guys are happy with Gallegos. Are we satisfied with Gallegos? I mean, he's not the dominant closer that he was, but he's also not in that role. So I'm pretty much okay with him, having that second closer role.
I mean, he is what he is. And again, I look at the stats, and maybe there's like deeper stats. Nothing in the stats suggests he's really different from last year.
No, yeah.
Like all the stats are basically the same, except for he's got a little higher ERA, he's got a little higher FIP, but he also has a higher homer to fly ball percentage, which indicates he's not it's not even that high either. I don't know. I feel like he just had a lot of high profile blown saves that make him look like he's been worse than he has. And he's sometimes frustrating to watch because he throws the pitch every 35 seconds.
Right. He's gonna have to figure that out next year. I mean, that's not going to work next year at all.
Hopefully he's still good with that, because I would prefer he be in the pitch clock if he's still effective. Yeah. It is torture, especially when he's struggling to throw pitches where he wants to.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I never want to see Hudson and Gallegos pitch in the same game.
No.
I think you go like 10 hours.
No. I wonder if that's one of the reasons why they don't want to send Hudson down too. Is that you'd have to pitch with the pitch clock and oh. Well, hey, there's the roster right now. Let's talk a little roster mechanics since we got Skyrick with us. September is not that far away, 2 weeks away. But the September call-up rules are different. And I thought, Mike, you might kind of give us a little rundown on how the rules changed and what we're looking at right now.
Okay, so going back a few years, let's take 2019, and for a long time, really the rules have been the same before that since about 1968. But when September 1st hit, you used to be allowed to recall your entire 40-man roster if you wanted, and you'd see a lot of people, and especially if the club's minor league season was over, they weren't going to make the playoffs, they'd bring a bunch of people up just to give, not only to get some looks, but they figured that some people could help the club. So now they changed the rules. That's no longer allowed. So now, and when September 1st hits, the roster is limited to 28, and it used to be, it was discretionary to call up with those people. Now you have to have a 28-man roster.
Yeah.
And only 14 pitchers. So if you had 13 pitchers before and 13 position players, then what you can do is you get one more pitcher and one more position player. That's it. So, but the effect that has is you used to basically see almost no transactions in September. There's no point in putting anybody on the injured list, right? Because you had all the 40-man guys that you could have. So there was no point in optioning anybody for the same reason. The only thing you used to see were just extra recalls after maybe after a minor league season was over. But now you do see different moves, and they have to be more careful about what they do, because if you option somebody, the rules used to be that if you option somebody to the minor leagues, you could recall them as soon as the minor league season was over. That's not true anymore. They still have to stay down the entire, either now it's 15 days for pitchers or 10 days for position players. So if you find yourself in a position where, you're optioning somebody towards the end of the playoffs, that player is going to be lost for the playoffs. So, well, at least for the first round anyway. Now this year it's been a little bit strange. It's different with the way they've handled the minor league seasons. In the old days, the minor league seasons like AAA Memphis would end like in the first or second week of September. Now the Memphis season goes through the end of September. So you will see people optioned and recalled, placed on the injured list, all that continuing. The one change that they made a couple of years ago was that if the minor league seasons were over, they made a rule where you could actually option a player to the complex league, which has no roster size limit. But if you did that after September 1st and after the minor league seasons are over, that player would get major league service time during the period of time he was optioned to the complex league. I don't think you're going to see complex league options this year, because the way they structured the schedule, the AAA Memphis season lasts through the end of September. So I don't think that'll be necessary, but you will see, injured list moves and options and recalls in September like you hadn't really seen before last year.
So 2 roster spots, predictions on how that's going to go down. I've got some ideas, but I want to hear from you guys. Have to add 2 players. Who are they going to be?
Just to clarify too, these guys have to be on the 40-man roster, or else there's going to have to be some mechanics, right?
Right. You can never play in a game if you're not on the 40-man.
Yeah. So like they would have to add Alec Burleson to the roster and then DFA somebody else.
Yeah.
To bring him up.
Or 60-day, but that would have ramifications in the offseason.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I could see for pitchers, I would want to see Junior Fernandez myself. Zach Thompson, if we want a little bit of left-handed help, but Fernandez came in with like 100-mile-per-hour sinker and threw 10 straight scoreless outings before kind of was touched up a little bit in his last 3. But I would love to see him come back, at least for one. And I don't know on the hitting side who's Kramer Robertson on the 40-man roster, Connor Capel.
Capel still is. No, Kramer, they reclaimed again. Maybe he is.
Kramer again.
Yeah.
So I think he's on it now. So, I mean, maybe one of those 2 guys would come up just for depth purposes. Or I guess we'd have to deal with the whole Yepes coming back thing too. So I think that would pretty much cover it.
Yeah.
The Yepes thing is going to cover it. What if they have to option now? This again, unless they decide to DFA Dickerson, which I guess they could. But I agree with Gabe. If they've had ample opportunity to do that already.
Yeah. Plus he's
So
hitting
unless they
now,
put-
so, yeah.
Unless they put him on the injured list, I think your extra position player is going to be either Yepez if they leave him down there, or Donovan if they option him and end up optioning him to bring up Yepez. The pitcher, I'd also like to see Fernandez as well, but I think what you're going to see instead is Thompson.
I'm thinking hitting wise. If Dickerson is DFA, because I agree that he probably won't be, I think it's going to be Capel. So you could have somebody who could sort of play center field, and then actually I'm going to go against the grain here. I think Cody Whitley is going to be called up in September. He's come back from his injury. He's pitched in 4 games. He has a 42.9% K rate. He struck out almost half the batters he's faced. He has walked 14%. He hasn't allowed a run so far. So I think if he keeps pitching like that, they're going to call it, because he got relatively high leverage spots before he kind of started struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're going to thing again maybe and see if he can contribute in October.
Yeah. I've kind of forgotten about Cody Whitley. I stopped writing about him because he kept making me look like an idiot. Because I kept talking about how great he was going to be. Not great, but how reliable he could be. Didn't walk a lot of guys, decent K rate. And he went out and was completely unreliable and walked everybody. I was like, okay, fine. All right, Cody, you're out to get me. But no, that's a good one, Gabe. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. Any of the rest of you guys? Anything different?
I don't have anything different. I liked what everyone said already. I'm going to steal you guys' ideas.
Yeah, I agree with Thompson. And then if they bring up Yepez, I think that would be it. But I just don't love the left-handed options they have out of the bullpen right now. I know that Packy's had a few moments that were burned into your mind, but aside from those few outings, he's been kind of hit or miss, and the peripherals around Hennessy's have not been great. So I would love to. I want to see Zach Thompson get another shot at it because his numbers in the big leagues have been really good. Wouldn't be upset if Yepez didn't get called up, but I think he will be.
Just to finish this conversation out, I'll also, like you, Gab, I'll go a little bit against the grain. I don't think this is going to happen, so let me clarify that. But I'd personally love to see them give Burleson a serious look now, because we know that he's going to be in their plans for next year. And sort of like Yepez didn't get a look at the end of 2021, and so they entered 2022 knowing nothing about him, never seeing him against Major League pitching at all. And I think that sort of was reflected in the way they built the roster. They brought Dickerson in, they brought Pujols in. Now Pujols was going to happen anyway. That's a totally different situation, but they built all kinds of obstacles in the way of Yepez, running with that DH spot. And, whether that's proven to be good or not, they needed someone. So I'm glad Pujols has done what he's done, but, Yepez was supposed to be that guy and they didn't know about it. I'd just like to see now what Burleson can do defensively, how he can look against Major League pitching before we either have to throw him into right field next year or give him a DH spot or leave him down in AAA because we're just not sure about him yet, and sign some, Dickerson like scrub in the offseason when he should be playing. So, and they're not going to do that, but I'd love to get looks at guys a year early so you know how to plan on them for the next year. And then I agree about the pitching. Yeah, Whitley's a great call. I hadn't thought about that, but I'm with you, Blake. Junior Fernandez is my guy. All right, last topic. This one's going to be quick hits because we're running out of time here. Not that we're on a clock, but we're on my editing clock, and I've got to render and edit everything we say today. I want to hear from all of you guys. One thing you want to see from the Cardinals over the last month and a half, and your answer can't be more wins than the Brewers. One thing that you want to see from the Cardinals here in the home stretch.
Yeah, I mean, mine's going to be something we already hit on a bunch, but it's just better outfield production. Like I remember a recent article I wrote, like, this is the outfield that everybody thought was going to be so good after last year, and it just kind of hasn't been. And with Dylan Carlson and Tyler O'Neill hitting 1 and 2 in the lineup, they're just going to have to hit better if the Cardinals really want to be that dangerous lineup that they've really been all season.
Yeah. Connor, let's go with you next.
I'll go way out of left field, and I want to see them get moving on the bases again. I feel like the first month or two of the season, they were running a hell of a lot. I know they traded Bader away, but Edmund can steal bases. O'Neill has like 98th percentile in sprint speed. He could be taking a lot more bases. And I feel like that's when the Cardinals are the most fun, is when they're getting a lot of hit and runs going, when they've got guys moving on the bases, and making pitchers more uncomfortable because they're constantly a threat. So I would have said O'Neill, but he hit it right before me. So I'll say, get a little more active on the base pass down the stretch.
That's a good one. I've forgotten about that. It's a great call there. Mike, what do you say, Skyrick?
Somebody that can hit leadoff, that can get on base.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, they're going to need to. So it's just like I touched on earlier. It's, we might be able to get away with it with just hoping that Golden Arenado just smash our way into the playoffs. But it would be really, really nice to get somebody that hits above them in the order that can get on.
Yeah. Yeah. Heather, Scooter, what you got? What do you want to see?
What I would like to see? Well, I don't know how possible it is. I'd like to see Yadier Molina just go on this like random, like last minute tear where, I don't know exactly what I want, but maybe like a bunch of doubles or something, just something fun. And I want to see him and Wainwright make how many more starts together? Are they going to actually get to that?
Yes,
I don't know.
I
want to see them break the battery record. That's what I want to see.
That's
but good. I want to see Molina playing well when they do it. Otherwise, it's not as fun.
Yeah.
It'll still be fun.
Yachty doubles are tough to get.
Yeah, it's true. He seems slower. I mean, he's older, but
even if he hits them to the right place, they're not gonna. He's not making
slower than they have to be ground rule doubles.
Yeah.
He seems slower than he's ever been.
Oh,
I guess that would make sense, but oof.
Yeah. Gabe, what you got?
Well, I was gonna say I hope they beat all the teams they're supposed to beat, but that's basically the same thing as I hope they win. So
they score more runs.
Yeah, I just hope to see Jack Flaherty pitch effectively in the major leagues. I don't care if it's in the bullpen. I don't care if it's as a starter. I just want to see him pitch in the major leagues in some capacity and be a factor in the playoffs.
Yeah. I think I just saw it flashed up on the screen. 3 innings tonight, his second rehab outing in this set of rehab outings. I don't know whether this is his second or third set of rehab outings on the season, but 3 innings, 4 Ks, 1 walk, 2 hits, no runs allowed. So not too bad. Of course, it was going pretty well the last time too, and he got shut down again. So worth keeping your eye on. Yeah, that's a good one. That's what I was going to say was Flaherty. Going last year, I think probably what I want to see, it kind of goes to what Mike, you were saying, but I want to see Carlson get himself right. You guys know I'm a big Carlson fan and can't stop talking about him and writing about him. And he's starting to prove all my thoughts and opinions wrong. If you can't hit the ball a little harder and can't walk a lot. So, and also he can play center field. And I was wrong about that one a little bit too, because I thought he was surely heading to a corner outfield. But anyway, I just want to see him get on base, put together some good at-bats, get his BABIP back up a little bit, and show a little bit of power at the end of the season so we know we can rely on him next year to be a plus player. So that's it. I'll tell you what, guys, I think this is a good squad. I think they're heading to the playoffs. I think they're going to win this division. And this should be a really good month of baseball. Any final thoughts from you guys?
I looked up how to pronounce Palante off Baseball Reference, and it is Palante. So we were right, of course.
Yeah.
We knew.
Yeah.
I was gonna show you guys something. Hopefully it comes through on the screen. The Minnesota Twins put this graphic up. Let's see. Can you read that? Compare Albert Pujols and Jose Miranda. 265 at bats.
Yeah. Wow.
The funniest thing about it to me is that Pujols has obviously, but Pujols has way better stats, so I don't know what their intention is.
They take such an arbitrary endpoint and still failed.
Right. Yeah, still failed. Yeah. Guess what? He's not Albert Pujols. One of these days, we need to probably after the season, I'd like for us to have sort of like a Pujols retrospective, because I'll tell you what, guys, we're never going to see a player like Pujols again. We might see some good ones. We might see some MVPs, but we're talking one of the 5 best, 6 best, 10 best players of all time. And it's been a pleasure to see. Got another hit tonight. Pleasure to watch him play. So.
Yeah, and I think his WRC plus has been better this year than it has been since 2014. So it's been fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, hey, we'll be glued to the TV watching the Cardinals play the Rockies and the D-backs and some other scrubs, and hopefully get some wins and get some mileage on the Brewers over the next couple weeks. But I'm sure all of us will be back here soon for another VEB podcast. And from all of us here on the team at Viva Albertos to all of you guys, have a very happy day, and go Cardinals.